The next method of adjusting a traverse is known as or referred to as the transit rule. Now, the transit rule is similar to the compass rule. The only difference is that the correction for the latitude of a particular course will depend on the latitude of the course itself. Similarly, the correction for the departure of a specific course will depend on the departure of the course itself. Unlike in the compass rule, wherein the correction for the latitude and departure of a course depends on the entire length of the course. The formulas that we will be using for the transit rule are as follows. The correction for latitude of any line is equal to the total missed closure in latitude times the latitude of the line all over the summation of the absolute value of the latitudes. Now, this one, the denominator, is the same as getting the sum of the north latitude and subtracting the sum of the south latitude. Because we know that the south latitude is negative, so in other words, we are just getting the sum of the absolute values of the latitudes. Same thing for the correction due to departure, or the correction for departure of a particular course is equal to the total closure in the departure, or the missed closure in the departure, multiplied by the departure of that course all over the summation of the absolute value of the departures. Now, same thing as the first one, the denominator, the sum of the absolute values of the departures, is equal to the sum of the east departures minus the sum of the west departures, knowing that west departures are negatively signed. So subtracting negative is equivalent to getting the sum of the absolute values of the departures. So our CL refers to the latitude correction of any course, latitude correction of any course. C sub L is the missed closure in latitude. Then lat refers to the latitude of the line or of the course. And then the summation of the absolute value of the latitude is equal to the sum of the north latitude minus the sum of the south latitudes. So C sub D refers to the departure correction of any course, any specific course. C capital D or C sub D is the missed closure in departure. Depth refers to the departure of any particular course, and the sum of the departure absolute value is the sum of east departure minus the sum of the west departure. Okay? So let us apply these formulas. Of course, the correction that we will be applied will be the negative of the corrections that we will get. Once we have the specific values of the corrections to be applied for the latitudes and the departures, we adjust the latitudes to get lat prime, and we also get departure prime for each of the course. After that, we can determine the adjusted length by applying Pythagorean theorem, lat prime squared plus depth prime squared. And as for the bearing or theta, that will be arctangent of the adjusted departure all over the adjusted latitude. So let us apply the transit rule in adjusting this given closed traverse. We have earlier calculated for the latitudes and the departures, no? So instead of applying the compass rule, we will be using the transit rule. So the same set of values for the latitudes and the departures. The latitudes are determined by multiplying the distance by the cosine of the bearing or the azimuth, and the departure is determined by multiplying the distance by the sine of the bearing or the azimuth. Now, each of these has its corresponding sign. Positive latitude if you have a northerly direction, negative for south directions. For the departures, positive for east directions and negative for west directions. So from this, we'll be able to determine, actually we have calculated it earlier, the summation of the latitudes with due consideration to the signs will give us the total latitude, the total closure in latitude or the misclosure in latitude, which is equal to 16.81 meters. And then for the misclosure in the departure, C sub D, we just have to add them together. We get the algebraic sum, and that will give us 18.08 meters. So we have the misclosure in the latitude and the misclosure in the departure. What else do we need to know? We need to get the sum of the absolute value of the latitudes and the summation of the absolute values of the departures. In other words, we get the absolute values of all the latitudes and we add them together. And so the summation of the absolute values of the latitudes will be 493.57 plus 590.53 plus and so on and so forth plus 377.19, and that will add up to 2,905.77. Summation of the departures, that will be 47.53 plus 612.23 plus and so on and so forth plus 541.70, and that should give us 3,322.64. Okay, so the departure corrections, or rather we start with the latitude corrections. So latitude corrections, the formula: correction for latitude of any line is equal to the total misclosure in latitude times the latitude of the line divided by the sum of the absolute values of the latitudes. Or common factors here are CL over sum of lat absolute value times the latitude of the line. Okay, so for CL of line AB, that will be the total misclosure in latitude 16.81 divided by the sum 2,905.77 multiplied by the latitude, which is 493.57. And so the correction for the latitude of line AB will be 2.86. We apply the same formula for the other lines, BC, CD, DE, EF, and FA. And the values that we should get are as follows: 3.42. Okay, so that is 16.81 all over 2905.77 multiplied by the latitude of the next line, BC, which is 590.53. And that value should be 3.42. Then 1.88 for the latitude correction of line CD, followed by 5.77, 0.70, and 2.18. Okay, so we can tabulate these values, the corrections for latitude and departure. So again, since the misclosure in latitude is positive, this correction should be deducted. So negative 2.86 for AB, negative 3.42, negative 1.88, negative 5.77, negative 0.70, and negative 2.18. And they should add up to the total misclosure, which is 16.81. We will be doing the same thing for the departure corrections. So departure corrections. Correction for departure of any course is equal to the total misclosure in departure times the departure of that course over the sum of the absolute values of the departures, or CD over summation of departure absolute value times the departure of the course. We start with line AB. That will be equal to the total misclosure in departure, which is 18.08. It's this one, divided by the total departure, which is 3322.64. 3322.64 multiplied by the departure of the line, which is 47.53. So the correction for departure of the first line is, for the first line AB is 0.26. Then we write the other lines BC, CD, DE, EF, and FA. And the values that you should get are as follows: 3.33, 4.31, 1.19, 6.04, and 2.95. So again, the misclosure in departure is 18.08 positive. So the corrections are the negative of the calculated values. So this will be negative 0.26, negative 3.33, negative 4.31, negative 1.19, negative 6.04, and negative 2.95. Again, when you add them together, with the way they should be negative, no? Negative 16.81. And this one is negative 18.08. Okay? So after adjusting the latitude, or rather, after getting the corrections for the latitudes and departures, we are now ready to adjust both the latitudes and departures of the lines. So adjusted latitude and adjusted departure. So for AB, it is 493.57 minus 2.86. And that should give us 490.71. 590.53 for line BC minus 3.42 is 587.11. Next, negative 325.53 minus 1.88 is negative 327.41. Negative 996.99 minus 5.77 is negative 1002.76. Negative 1 to 1.96 minus 0.70 is negative 122.66. Finally, positive 377.19 minus 2.18 is positive 375.01. And add them together, you should get a sum of 0. Now, meaning to say the latitudes have already been adjusted or already in adjustment. For the departure, starting with line AB, 47.53 minus 0.26 will give us 47.27. Next, 612.23 minus 3.33 is 608.90. 791.09 minus 4.31 is 786.78. 219.51 minus 1.19 is 218.32. Negative 1110.58 minus 6.04 is negative 1116.62. And for the last line FA, negative 541.70 minus 2.95 is 544. Negative 544.65. Adding them together, you should get 0. Okay? So we have already adjusted. Now we have already adjusted the latitudes and the departures because their sums are both equal to 0. Next is we adjust the length of each line as well as their corresponding direction or bearing. So the adjusted length is determined using Pythagorean theorem, that is departure prime squared plus latitude prime squared. Okay? So for the line AB, we have done this before in the compass rule. So there's nothing different for the transit rule in calculating for the adjusted length and the adjusted direction. So adjusted length or distance for line AB, it is square root of 490.71 squared plus 47.27 squared. And that should give us 492.98. So let me just write down the adjusted lengths or distances: 845.85, 852.19, 1026.25, 1123.34, and 661.27. As for the adjusted bearing or theta prime, that will be equal to the arctangent of the adjusted departure all over the adjusted latitude. And you should get the following adjusted bearings. For line AB, it is north 5 degrees and 30 minutes in the northeasterly direction. Then 46 degrees 03 minutes northeast, followed by 67 degrees 24 minutes southeast direction for CD, Next is 12 degrees 17 minutes, direction southeast. Also for TE, for EF, it is southwest, 83 degrees and 44 minutes. And finally, for line FA, it is 55 degrees 27 minutes in a northwesterly direction. Okay? So these are the adjusted distances, the adjusted bearings. No? The misclosure or the linear error closure can be determined again by using the misclosure in the latitude and the misclosure in the departure. As an exercise, you may sketch the traverse. Sketch the traverse. Okay?